Good morning and welcome to my garden. This morning I'm going to be cleaning up contour number 2. Now contour number 2 last season was my very productive winter brassicas bed. I had such a lovely crop of cabbages, lettuces, kohlrabi, broad beans, carrots, onions, all along here. But as you can see, the winter crops have gone and it's been replaced with a good deal of summer weeds. So I need to clean all this up and prepare it because next season it's going to be my potato patch. The plan is to pull out the weeds, put on a layer of mushroom compost, a layer of horse manure and a layer of sugarcane mulch. And I'll be able to look forward to a very prolific potato crop this coming season. I hope so, anyway. My fruit trees are doing really well. The avocados are very pleasing. I've pruned the avocados just to make them all a uniform shape so that they're not too high, so that they're not overcrowded in the centre. I've tried to create a bit of balance. This has got a longer branch going up that way. It might be worth me pruning off that taller branch so that it's all at this level and then it can grow up from there. I think I'll do that. This one, the first branches were up quite high and I'm a little bit disappointed about that. This is actually a very large avocado. Father-in-law gave me this one. The fruit was apparently about 1 kilo for the one fruit. It hasn't shot down lower, which means all the fruit are going to be quite high. I wish it was lower. I'm tempted. I keep saying this. I'm tempted to actually chop it off at knee height and make it re-sprout from there. But I haven't quite had the courage to do that yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. It'll depend how adventurous I feel cleaning up this garden bed. I've started to harvest a few papayas. They're very small. They have got some mold growth on them. I probably have to cut off about 1/3 of each fruit. Now this is my syntropics chop and drop side. So I'm not terribly worried about the weeds, but I do want to plant more things here that I can grow to chop and drop. And these seasonal grasses don't really fill that niche. I'd rather get some more trees in here. So I'll be pulling out a lot of these weeds, these seasonal grasses, adding to my chop and drop row. Along this bed, I planted turmeric, citrus, and ginger. It took the ginger a really long time to come back, but you can see here it has come back. So we'll clean up around them a bit more. I've already started cleaning up around here. These other ones, there is a ginger come up here, but it's very weedy there and the citrus is pretty smothered, so I will release that. But the first priority is to clean up along the vegetable side so that I can get my mushroom compost and lay it tomorrow. Okay, I finished cleaning up the vegetable growing side and I've pruned some of the fruit trees a little bit. And doesn't it look so lovely? Look at the towering papayas with the avocados underneath. It's just such a beautiful place to be. And weeding underneath those, there's just dappled shade. And it was much more pleasant than weeding out in the sun. But this bed's still got a few little things in it. This is wild rocket that transferred itself over from the wedge garden over there. A final kohlrabi that never developed. I'm not sure if it'll stay. This is an onion that never developed, more onions that never developed. Some silver beet, which I have been using, but it's been attacked by bugs quite a lot at the moment. Some carrots, which I wanted to keep for seed. Shallots, which I've been cutting for shallot tops. Some more carrots. This cabbage here was planted later in the season and the bugs have got to it, so it's been pretty much a waste of time unless I learn to cover my vegetables. These purple cabbage, I have used them and cut them and they've regrown at least twice, so they've been valuable. And this Chinese cabbage wombok has grown back from seeds that were produced by the original plant. So that's what's been going on in this garden over the last few months. But it just looks so lovely and lush, and I really enjoy the look of fruit trees growing near vegetables. I've only been doing it this year. This garden was probably only established maybe March. I love the renewal that comes after a cleanup, but not just the removing of the dross and the dead and the ugly. Forgive the background noise. My man's doing some mowing. Not just the removal of the dead and the ugly, but the discoveries of the fresh and the new. So today my plan is to get some mushroom compost and put it on this bed. And then I'm hoping to, in the following week, get some horse manure and put it on this bed. And then I also have some sugarcane mulch, which I'm going to add to the bed. That'll give this bed quite a thick layer of mulch and raise the height of it quite a bit. And I'm wondering if that's going to create a bathtub effect here down the centre, or a trench for my fruit trees to grow in. Water will freely drain through the manure and the sugarcane mulch. It is on a slope. I'm wondering if I need to remove some of this soil that I put here when I established the bed and replace it with just the manure and the compost. I guess this is part of my learning journey, but it'd be a real shame to lose all my avocado plants along here. This morning I'm continuing my cleanup of contour 2 on the north. Now, I did a marathon weeding session the other day and the vegetable side is all cleaned up. The chop and drop side, I'll get to that later. You can see that I've already started this morning putting on what I intend to amend the garden. We had some fires in winter and I collected some charcoal, some char. As the fire was burning, I would steal the coals from the fire and douse them in water to stop them disintegrating. These ones I have mixed with worm castings and worm tea, so that will hopefully bioactivate it. The second step of improving the soil in this garden is mushroom compost. So I have acquired a nice big bag of mushroom compost and it's quite fresh. So no big breaths from the bag as I'm unloading it. And this I'm putting on the garden. I will scrape it back from the fruit trees along that alleyway. The beans I'm hoping are going to be okay because right now there's a very beautiful crop on them and I'll harvest that before I go in for breakfast. So I'm going to put mushroom compost along the entire length of this today. Maybe not all today. Well, that's done. Full bag of mushroom compost, all empty and spread all over contour 2 on the north. This end is done. And you can see it's about 40 centimetres high on the edge. So what have I been putting on? Originally, this was just shoveled soil as a result of the shed works. And that's what I grew in for the brassicas for last winter. I've put on a number of layers. The first layer I put on was a sprinkle from my worm farm. So this is worm castings. It's got cow manure in it. It's got biochar in it. It's got lots of eggshells and various other bits and pieces. All my kitchen waste, chicken manure. So that all goes in my worm farm. And I take the most composted layer off the worm farm and use it as castings. Charcoal, it's very absorbent. And so by putting it in my worm farm first, I have the benefit of absorbing the nutrients from the manures and the worm castings and becoming true biochar. The second layer I put on was mushroom compost. Then I've done a third layer, this time of, again, a sprinkle of worm castings. The fourth layer is horse manure. Fifth layer is just the charcoal. So this has not been through my worm farm yet, but I want more charcoal in my garden. Charcoal also helps plants survive dry times because it absorbs moisture, and it also helps plants survive wet times, probably because of the same feature of the air gaps within the charcoal. If you use just charcoal, you do have the problem of it absorbing the nutrients from the soil when it first goes down because it's very absorbent. So with it absorbing nutrients, it can cause problems for plants and they can suffer without nutrients. In this case, I'm not so worried because it's going directly onto what was reasonably fresh horse manure. And so it will absorb the nutrients from that. And as it gets down a little bit lower into the soil, There's the worm castings and the mushroom compost. So not so worried. It is on the top, so it will be above the roots of the plant. And I'm hoping by the time it's incorporated, it will be well charged. I have some spoiled silage. This is Rhodes grass silage that I'm putting on top of everything to keep the moisture in. So there we go. We've got castings, mushroom compost, castings, horse, charcoal, silage. So that's 6 layers. Wow. That's going to be a very healthy sandwich for some worms, and hopefully the entire mycorrhizal network will really benefit from that and will do good things for this garden. The job is done. This has made a really nice thick cover on this bed, which will add lots of nutrients to it and be all ready for planting potatoes. I believe potatoes around here are planted anywhere from March to May. So that gives this 2 to 4 months to compost down, and I'll probably start planting at the eastern end and then work my way down to the western end. The bed's about 16 metres long. It'll give me plenty of opportunities to experiment with early potatoes and late potatoes. Now, the southern side, my chop and drop side. As you can see, quite a lot of grass has moved into this row. That's not a problem because grass makes great chop and drop. However, in this case, I did have some nice ornamental plants which I was hoping to use as chop and drop, and the grass may be smothering some of them. I enjoy a bit of wild, but also like bringing it under control. So I'll pull out the couch. Maybe in true syntropics I wouldn't need to do that because the bigger trees would grow and would shade out the couch. In the meantime, here in southeast Queensland, the couch will take over and smother everything. So I will pull some of it out. There have been some trees that are planted that have died off, so I'll want to replace them with other trees. There are a couple of plants I planted that really do not fit the description of fast growing and great biomass producers. I may just plant another couple of trees beside it. I have put off cleaning up my contours because it was so hot and the plants really needed each other for shade and to prevent them from drying out too much. So this row here hasn't been pruned, hasn't been chopped and dropped for a very long time, and I'm keen to do so. I did chop down some arrowroot recently. I was showing a friend how arrowroot and lemongrass look when they're chopped down compared to when they're completely overgrown. But I'm keen to get this all cleaned up. I've cleaned up the other side. It's ready to take my potatoes for this coming season. My pigeon pea, I want to chop it all down to knee, the arrowroot down to knee high, more pigeon pea. As you can see along this chop and drop row, most of the things I've planted, they're not really great chop and drop plants. The leptospermum, the tea tree, it's doing okay. The tiburtina is going to be good one day, but in the meantime, it's not done much. The comfrey will be useful. That's some taro that we're going to eat eventually. Some sage. I think this is a gordonia. The azalea, it's just not suitable as a chop and drop. It doesn't grow fast enough. Photonia, now that could be very useful. They make good hedges. So I'm looking forward to having that one taller so I can chop that one. Phibalium, it's just not a good chop and drop. This one, it's growing so slow. That one might be a gardenia. This one might be the gordonia. But they're just not growing fast enough to be regularly chopped and dropped. This is Phibalium. It's got some growth on it, but it just hasn't grown fast enough. And this camellia also. Part of that might be that they've not been watered regularly. I don't water my syntropics row. I water my vegetable row, and the vegetables and the fruit trees are right there. They can share water. I rely on the mycorrhizal network to share around nutrients and moisture, so I don't water my chop and drop row. The weather has changed a little bit, and we're not getting temperatures in the high 30s anymore. In fact, this week we're all temperatures in the high 20s. So I don't have to worry about leaving the plants there for protection for each other, and I can start pruning them down and doing my chop and drop thing, which I'm very excited about. I love a garden that looks all clean and freshly chopped and dropped. I like the wild too, but if it sits wild for too long, I really feel the need to clean it up and to make it beautiful again. So that's what I'm doing today. In syntropics, they often talk about a full reset, and that is when everything is pruned and then everything can grow again together. I've decided to do the pruning of my fruit trees at the same time as I do my big chop and drop of the syntropics row. In this case, that will involve pruning the avocados so that they're not leaning strongly over the vegetable patch, and it'll involve pruning off some of the lower branches of the papaya. So I'd like to encourage the avocados and the citrus to grow in a row this way. So I have the fruit trees almost flat on, so they're going to get maximum northern sun and they're not going to shade the vegetables. Okay, you can see I've pruned this avocado plant. It's a lot narrower now and it's growing more straight up and down the aisle. The main cutting off I did was of these two branches here that were growing straight out this way over the vegetables. Now that would definitely have shaded the vegetables, and depending on what I was going to plant here, it would cause obstruction to their leaf. But now I've got it pruned so that it's a lot more narrow and it's staying in the centre aisle. So that should help it to have a nicer shape that will suit this garden. I am done, and I think it looks fabulous, and I think the rain's going to try and chase me inside. But I've completed the chop and drop, I've completed the tidy up and the pruning of the fruit trees, and doesn't it look fabulous? I couldn't prune the yucca very much because it's end of summer, and if you prune it now it will inhibit the growth of the tubers. I did, however, prune the branches that were lying down on the ground and those that were falling over on the chop and drop row and getting in the road. Some of these plants were so small I couldn't prune them. This is a flowering basil, and I didn't prune that because the bees need something at the moment. I chopped all the lower branches off the papaya so that they're not causing extra shade over the garden as we come into winter, and the plants will be wanting all the sun they get. Currently it's still the end of summer, and the canopy above will help shade immediately below. I added to the chop and drop row. You may also notice that I've filled in the swale here. We've decided we don't need the swale. If any water runs down the hill, it'll be obstructed and caught by the chop and drop row, and it'll be caught again by the vegetable bed on the other side. The swale just serves to make mowing and keeping the paths clean a little bit more complicated, and I often end up with tall grass along the edge of the swale because the mower can't get to it. At least now anything that grows in the chop and drop row will be fine, and anything that's on the path, we can just mow that without fear of the mower falling into the swale. It looks so much cleaner and neat and looked after and cared for. You can see the avocados are growing very flat down the centre of the bed. They're not hanging over the vegetable bed, and I'm going to continue to encourage them to grow in the centre so that the vegetables are not overly shaded. I've pruned off the lower branches of the papaya. Papayas can branch and I could end up with fruit down lower, but I don't want them to create more shade than necessary over these beds. These are supposed to be productive beds, and if they're going to shade things, then that will reduce the production. I had pineapple, avocado pineapple, and then a papaya, and then I had ginger, citrus, turmeric, and a papaya. So there is a ginger plant here that had a dead stalk on it. There is quite a bit of root just there, and I'm hoping it'll come back. That turmeric is doing well there. The ginger here is doing all right. Some of these citrus trees just haven't grown very well at all. So that one's still very small. I pruned off all the multiple branches down the bottom to encourage it to have a central stem. I think I might actually prune back some of this turmeric. Because I have 1, 2, 3 bunches of it, I will have enough turmeric for our family. So I'm going to actually prune that off too, so that I can effect the complete reset with the syntropic chop and drop. Also so those citrus can get more light. Okay, final walk round. It's all looking very pruned. It's looking very clean. It's looking very loved. I'm yet to put some more pineapples in the gaps where the pineapples have died. So that'll be one more there. I think that one's dead. and a couple more down the end, and another papaya needs to be planted in that gap there. But this is contour 2 on the north, all ready for winter planting.